What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're recapping the New Orleans Saints defeating the Carolina Panthers 31-26 in the NFC Wildcard Round. But before we get into that, I'm going to quickly go over the last games, the last wildcard games, because it's only fair, and I didn't have time to recap those games, so I'll quickly go over them real quick. So we move on first. We first start off with the Tennessee Titans defeating the Kansas City Chiefs 22-21. This was a great game to watch. This is the second best game so far in the playoffs. The first being the one that I'm recapping right now, the New Orleans Saints versus the Carolina Panthers. But the Tennessee Titans came back from, I believe it was 21-3 deficit. I mean, typical Andy Reid fashion to blow a game like this. But the Tennessee Titans, just believe the whole time. Marcus Mariota in the interview said, nothing changed from the first half to the second half. They've always believed, and it just went on in the second half. They came back from that, and any other team would have just gave up at that point, down 21-3. But at the same time, you got to know that this is Andy Reid, calling the game for the Kansas City Chiefs, who has been known to choke some games, especially in the playoffs. I mean, this 2017 season, is a direct representation of the 2013 season that the Kansas City Chiefs had, where they started 9-0. Everybody was like, wow, Kansas City might just win the Super Bowl, now with Alex Smith as their quarterback, and wow, Alex Smith, could he really be the answer, la la la. And they start 9-0, they finish 11-5, then they face the Indianapolis Colts in the wild card, and then they blow a 28-point lead. You thought the Atlanta Falcons lead was bad. I mean, they were dominating. The Atlanta Falcons lead was bad in the Super Bowl, but they were dominating. The Kansas City Chiefs were dominating the Indianapolis Colts in that wild card round, and Andrew Luck and his team came all the way back from that, and they were defeated, and their 9-0 start season just went all to waste. And it's direct representation of what happened this season. They started off 5-0, they went on a 1-6 run or something like that. Then they finished like 4-0 after that, or something like that. I don't know. Not good at math, like I told you guys. But anyway, direct representation of what happened in 2013. Alex Smith, MVP candidate. Kareem Hunt, Rookie of the Year candidate, which might go to Alvin Kamara now. The Kansas City Chiefs starting off Week 1 with defeating the Super Bowl champions, New England Patriots, 45-27 or something like that, something around that score. So Andy Reid just being typical Andy Reid. You got to wonder, is this guy going to lose his job sometime soon? Because, I mean, it seems like everywhere he goes, he just loves to blow leads like this and loves to just, hype up the crowd, just like when he was with the Philadelphia Eagles. Went to 5 NFC championships, only been to the Super Bowl once. And didn't even win that Super Bowl. So I mean, Andy Reid, he's one of those guys that will get you to the playoffs. It's just you're gonna have to take it from there, because Andy Reid will not take part in the playoffs. So with that being said, Derrick Henry completely went off. Marcus Mariota, the stats didn't show it, but he was a factor in this game. He also, I don't know if this is the first in NFL history, because nobody's treating it as such. I don't know if this is the first in NFL history, but he literally passed a touchdown to himself. In the record books, it says Marcus Mariota passes for a touchdown to Marcus Mariota. What was it, like a 6-yard touch, 7-yard touchdown or something like that. I mean, that's just being at the right place at the right time. Don't get me wrong, but that's just greatness by Marcus Mariota and great awareness by Marcus Mariota to, he was pushed by, what was his name, Kevin Pierre-Louis or something like that. He was pushed right into the ball, and I know that Chiefs defender is kind of shaking his head about that, because he led Marcus Mariota to get that touchdown, which is insane. But moving on to great job to the Tennessee Titans. They got to face New England next week. Atlanta, I thought the Rams were going to put up a better fight against Atlanta. Guess not. This is a young team with a young coach, and this is experience for them. Hopefully they come back next year and they prove better than that, because they did not have a good outing here in the wild card round. The Atlanta Falcons beat the Rams 26-13. Moving on to the Buffalo Bills at the Jacksonville Jaguars. This was a sleeper of a game. Both quarterbacks played terribly. Both quarterbacks couldn't hit another, a wide receiver or anybody for that matter, for more than 15 yards. It just wasn't happening. Tyrod Taylor couldn't hit anybody, even if they were open. And it was just a bad game. It was a bad game. Sure, it was a windy stadium, but you got to think about it, man. I could be playing football in my backyard for 4 years and still I would get used to the wind movements and stuff like that. I would know how to throw the ball in my own backyard. This is Blake Bortles' backyard. This is his home stadium. You would think now, 4 years being in the league, 4 years playing at that stadium, that you would know how to throw the ball in your own damn stadium. I mean, the guy looked like he was playing in an away game. He did not know how to control the wind, how to manipulate the football to glide with the wind in his own stadium. It was so bad. I mean, every other quarterback that plays in their own stadium that's been there for more than 4 years knows how to throw the ball in their own stadium. It's supposed to be an advantage for the home team, and instead it was a disadvantage for the home team because Blake Bortles couldn't hit anybody. Even on 5 yard out routes, it was that bad. 5 yard hitches, it was just that bad, and you would see the wide receivers just the annoyance in their faces. I mean, they were all wincing their faces and stuff like that, getting mad and sighing and stuff like that. So the Jacksonville Jaguars need to move on need to move on from Blake Bortles because he should not be in the plan moving forward. That is a great team that could win a Super Bowl. And you put somebody else like Marcus Mariota, who just came back with the Tennessee Titans. You put somebody like Marcus Mariota in a Jaguars uniform, I guarantee you he's winning the Super Bowl this year. So with a defense like that, they better hope they make it far. That defense needs to be prepared because Blake Bortles will not help them. Moving on now to this game, the Saints just sweeping the Carolina Panthers, and this was a good game. All three of those games were great games, and this has quickly become one of my favorite matchups right now in the NFL. I mean, when these two teams meet up, it's never boring. I mean, Cam Newton and Drew Brees really know how to sling a football, especially even if they don't have anybody to work with. Cam Newton, I mean, this guy had a phenomenal game, and you guys look at the stats, it already looks good. But you guys look at how he was playing, it was great. I mean, he was being pressured all game. He got sacked 4 times for 43 yards. You're talking about 11 yards per sack. I mean, that's pretty bad. And he was pressured a lot in this game. And he was hit a lot in this game. So much so that Derek Anderson had to come in for a play or two because, I forgot his name. Something, Onyemata, something like that. David Onyemata completely laid out Cam Newton, and that was a clean hit, don't get me wrong, that was a beautiful hit actually. That's how I want my defensive lineman getting to the quarterback, and beautiful hit on Cam Newton. He didn't see it coming, was dazed, had to come out. Derek Anderson came in for a play or two, didn't turn the ball over, so Cam Newton cleared concussion protocol, was able to move on in the game. But he was really pressured this game, and he was still slinging the rock. And I'll tell you this right now. Look at this. You're talking about a quarterback that has to deal with a receiving core that your best receivers are a tight end and a running back. Other than that, your wide receiving core consists of Devin Funchess, Kalen Clay, who was like a special teams player for the Buccaneers, and then Brenton Burson, who got cut from the Carolina Panthers, I believe alone in the past 2 years, 5 times from the Carolina Panthers because he kept getting injured, and he's just, one of those guys where you bring on for just as a replacement that you take back off in your practice squad and you bring him back on and you take him off, and just whenever you need him, he's there. That's the guy he had as his third wide receiver option. I mean, those are the players that Cam Newton was dealing with against a New Orleans Saints defense that, you could laugh at in the beginning of the season saying, anybody could throw on that defense. Then they quickly turned it around and now are allowing, they were 17th in points per game and 10th in the league in yards allowed. Or do I have that switched up? I'm not sure. But that's pretty good stats from, being last in every single defensive category you could think of. I mean, this Saints defense was terrible. couldn't pressure the quarterback, which they quickly turned around. Cameron Jordan on a monstrous run this season. Guys in the interior like Onyemata, Sheldon Rankin, so on and so forth. Your linebacking core is starting to come together a little bit. Monty Teo, Haloi Kikaha, and players like that. And this Saints defense really got after Cam Newton, and Cam Newton was 24 of 40, 349 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. We then move on to Drew Brees, who was 23 of 33, 376 yards, almost 400 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. That call was very questionable. That 4th down play at the end of the game, where they could have just punted the ball off out of bounds just in case a return happened, and just had Cam Newton deal with a really long field. You're talking about, at first they were trying to get the Carolina defense to go off sides, and that's understandable. You go on down on 4th and 2, you go ahead and start faking it, say it hut, and see if they jump off sides. If they don't, take the delay of game call, punt the ball off, and Cam Newton has to deal with a much farther field. If it wasn't for that Mike Adams interception, Cam Newton would only have to deal with 30 yards, really, because you just go 30 yards and you could kick a field goal. Graham Gano is a pretty damn good kicker, even though he missed that, that easy chip shot field goal from like 25 yards. That was bad. That was really bad. But they had to score. Forgive me, sorry about that. They had to score. They had to get a touchdown. If Graham Gano got that field goal that he missed, that I don't know how he missed that. If he got that field goal, then they would have needed a field goal. But still, at the same time, they had some time to deal with. Cam Newton really didn't help himself out by intentional grounding and the 10-second runoff, and he was finding himself with less and less time each time. So that didn't help his cause whatsoever. But you think about it, Cam Newton threw to the end zone a couple of times and it was almost caught. And Marshawn Lattimore batted it away, and there was another instance where it was batted away. And think about if that wasn't batted away, and they were able to come down with those balls. You start looking at Sean Payton like, what the hell were you thinking? You should have just kicked the ball off. So I would have kicked the ball off, in my opinion. I would have had him made Cam Newton deal with the whole entire field with a receiving core like that. I know Christian McCaffrey, he came on late in the game, wound up having over 100 yards. And this thing about Christian McCaffrey, I think they just need to switch him over to wide receiver, because this guy sucks at running the ball and is very good. I like Christian McCaffrey. I was a big fan of him coming out of Stanford. He just doesn't fit the system. He just doesn't. If you put him as a wide receiver, he will fit your system. He'll be on those slants. He'll be on those crossing routes that Cam Newton loves so much. They call a lot of crossing routes in Carolina, a lot of crossing routes. So, you put Christian McCaffrey with that route running ability and that speed and the agility, and he will be a great wide receiver for Carolina. But putting him as a running back is just not good. I know he's a mismatch for linebackers, but he's just not a good running back. So, he has over 100 yards. Greg Olsen comes back, and he was great today. Greg Olsen was just great today. And he also had a touchdown, I believe. So Greg Olsen was fantastic today. Had 8 receptions on 12 targets, 107 yards and a touchdown. So good job to him. Devin Funchess was all right today. Dropped some balls as well. Kalen Clay had some pretty good catches. I'm not gonna lie. Had some pretty good catches, and in the punt return game made some plays where it could have been a loss, or they could have been tackled as soon as he caught the ball, or fair caught it. Instead of doing that, he was able to slither through in the punt return game, which I'll give him credit for. But he did drop an easy touchdown on an out route in the end zone. Cam Newton threw a beautiful ball. That thing did not wobble whatsoever, and it was at the corner of the end zone. He could have came down with that. We would be talking about Carolina moving on to the divisional round. So, Cam Newton laid it all out on the field for his team and Carolina in general, and they just couldn't come up. They came up short today. Not much defense going on for these two teams. Sure, Cam Newton was sacked quite a lot. And matter of fact, I mean, New Orleans, the Saints had a really good defensive performance. They held Carolina to 5 field goal attempts and only 2 touchdowns. So good job to them. But Carolina's defense did not play well, except in the run game. And that's something I will applaud them on. You're talking about Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara, who are, in my opinion, the best. It's not Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman anymore like it was last year. Now it's Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara. That is the best 1-2 punch running back duo in the NFL right now. And Carolina shut that down. And we're talking about a running game for the Saints, who were 5th in running, averaging about, I think, 130-something yards a game, 132 yards a game, and only holding the New Orleans rushing attack to 41 yards the whole day. Alvin Kamara, 10 carries, 23 yards. That's 2.3 yards a carry. Had that touchdown, which was great. Mark Ingram, 9 carries, 22 yards, 2.4 yards per carry. So they did not have a great day on the ground whatsoever. They did get some stuff going in the passing game, those two, but that was pretty much it. Mark Ingram had one reception for 13 yards, and Alvin Kamara had 1 reception for 10 yards. So not really much anything going, but they were able to do something. Josh Hill performed well today, filling in for Kobe Fleener, who's been out for a while. He's been out for the season, so Josh Hill did a fine job. 3 receptions, 49 yards, nothing too big, because they already have Michael Thomas as that number 1 guy, and Ted Ginn, who completely was great today. Josh Hill had a great touchdown too, completely fake, because he's mostly used as a blocking tight end. But completely faked out the whole Carolina defense. Nobody was in the screen at that point when he caught that touchdown. So great job by him, able to fake out the defense. Brandon Coleman actually made some pretty good plays today, and this is the thing with Brandon Coleman, because I had him on my fantasy team, so I was forced to look into him and stuff like that. Because I picked him up on the waiver wire, and he wound up putting up some points for me, believe it or not. Brandon Coleman is one of those guys, he's your 4th or 5th wide receiver, but if you needed him to be your number 2, your number 3, he could definitely be that for you, but he just drops. He just has some stupid drops sometimes. The ball could hit his, and there was one time where it was a jump ball. The guy's huge, all right? He's 6'3", 6'4", Brandon Coleman, so, or maybe even taller than that. It was a jump ball. Drew Brees threw it up for him where only he can get it, and it just hits his hands. It goes right through his hands. You catch a ball like this, it hit his hands, it goes right through the circle. And he couldn't come down with that. He has to be more aggressive in doing that. But 4 receptions, 44 yards, that's not too bad when you have your Michael Thomas and your Ted Ginn, getting 8 receptions, 131 yards from Mike Thomas. And Ted Ginn, with that beautiful long ball, was able to keep focus. James Bradbury, and I believe this was James Bradbury that almost got to Ted Ginn. It was a cover 3. It was cover 3, and James Bradbury had nobody in his vicinity. He immediately sees Ted Ginn, and he runs to the other side of the field and runs with him, and that's some great defensive playing right there. But unfortunately, he was a second late, guys. I'm talking about a second late. If James Bradbury, like I said, I don't know, I forgot if it was James Bradbury or Daryl Worley. I doubt it was Daryl Worley, because that guy's trash. But James Bradbury, if he were to read that nobody was on his side and he could move on to his zone, to his deep, cover 3 zone, if he realized Ted Ginn was there sooner, he could have knocked that ball down. That wouldn't have been a touchdown. Now, whether to say that Drew Brees wouldn't have went down the field anyway, who knows? Because Drew Brees was having his way the whole entire game tonight, but. Just great performance by James Bradbury there. I know he basically gave up a touchdown. He was the closest guy in the vicinity when the ball was caught. Like I said, Ted Ginn just barely caught that ball. He caught that ball right at the hip. It was such a deep ball that it was underthrown, and it wasn't really underthrown. So it was just a great play, and I applaud James Bradbury for that. So with all that being said, that's pretty much it. Great. This was a fantastic game. I can't wait till next year when these two teams play, because I'm just looking forward to it. And hopefully Carolina gets some wins here because poor Carolina is just getting beat up by the Saints. But they're always good games to see. Definitely in Carolina needs to get a wide receiver in this draft. Whoever it is, Cam Sutton. Maybe you could get Cam Sutton in your draft position right there. Or that Saint Equa, I don't know, something like that. It's a weird name. Just get yourself, or that guy from Oklahoma State, I can't remember it. James Washington, get somebody. You need somebody in that passing game because your wide receivers are not good. You need a wide receiver, and I think that's your biggest need right now. I think your biggest need is wide receiver. Your defense is all right. Maybe you can get a corner, and you can wait to the second round to get a corner. But you need a wide receiver in the first round for sure. Cam Newton could have had a much better day had he had a real good number one. All that being said, good luck to the New Orleans Saints. The Tennessee Titans go up to New England to face the New England Patriots. As sad as it is to see, and I like the Tennessee Titans because I'm a fan of Marcus Mariota. And I would like to see Marcus Mariota get a win there in New England, but I just don't see it happening. But you never know. It is the NFL, right? So, and it's the NFL playoffs, right? Atlanta now goes to... Atlanta, I believe, goes to Philadelphia. Yes, Atlanta was the 6th seed, so automatically they go to Philadelphia. So they're going to be facing off there. We'll see what happens there. Will Nick Foles show up to play? That's going to be the deciding factor right there because Philadelphia has the team to get it done, but will Nick Foles make enough mistakes that will lose that game for Philadelphia? Because I believe Philadelphia is a better team than Atlanta, but we'll see what happens. Is Julio Jones going to be a mismatch for these Philadelphia corners? So we'll see what happens there. The Jacksonville Jaguars. Oh yeah, by the way, like I said, how about Aaron Donald? Guys? I mean, that guy had like 10 hurries in the first quarter, or the first quarter, was it? 10 hurries. I mean, that guy was a complete monster, and I said that in the prediction. He will disrupt this Atlanta running game and Atlanta interior. He will disrupt it, and he did so. Great job by Aaron Donald. I had to give him a little props there. But yeah, moving on to Jacksonville, they go on to play the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we'll see what happens. Like I said in my prediction video, I had the Jacksonville Jaguars winning and going to Pittsburgh. We'll see what happens because Jacksonville has a good track record against Pittsburgh. They're known to beat Pittsburgh a couple times. Will that change being that they're in the playoffs? And I think Antonio Brown is coming back, so we'll see what happens. Then moving on, New Orleans goes up to Minnesota. I will circle this game on my calendar. I don't own a calendar, of course, but I will circle this game in my head calendar. The Minnesota Vikings, great defense and a pretty well-rounded offense. Case Keenum was just a Pro Bowl snub this year. Great season for Case Keenum. And then they're going against a team in the New Orleans Saints that have a fantastic offense and a defense that's really gelling together. That's going to be definitely the best game of the week in this playoff round coming up. So with all that being said, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.